Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. We got a great show lined up for you. A ton of betting information coming your way. We're going to start up with Brian Leonard. He's going to look at Boston against Houston, the hottest team in baseball right now, on a 9-1 run and favored against the Red Sox. He's also going to take apart, well, the worst team in baseball, the Chicago White Sox, and what they're going to do against San Francisco. Bryan Power after that. He's got a La Liga bet, not just any. Atletico Madrid versus Villarreal. Those are two famous teams. And he's also got an NFL win total on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to end the show with Drew Martin. He's got something for us on the Pittsburgh Pirates game as well as the New York Mets game. Teddy Covers is my co-host. What's your big game breakdown?
Big game breakdown is a big game for tonight. The Dodgers and the Mariners. We'll break that one down before this show is through. And, of course, we'll do the 6 Bs. It's Monday. We got bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books to talk about a little recap of what happened in NFL preseason betting this past weekend. So you nailed it, Lawrence. Loaded Monday edition. Let's get right into it.
Brian Leonard, welcome to the show, my friend. How's your weekend? How was your weekend? Good?
It was great. I got to see my friend Teddy. We don't get to see each other very often, especially with football season coming around. We probably won't see each other for a few months. But, yeah, it was great to get together with the guys. It was the Dave Koken Memorial, and got to see Scott Spratzer, one of our former employees, and a lot of really good people.
Excellent stuff. Let's get straight into it. I wish I was at the Dave Koken Memorial. I spoke to Teddy about it and Jim Feist. I heard it was wonderful. We're on a hard stop, however. So Houston minus 128 against Boston. They have owned this Boston Red Sox team, won 6 in a row, 8 of 10. How do we bet this game?
Tanner Houck was having a career year going into the All-Star break, but he's regressed big time since. He's already surpassed his previous total pitches on the season by over 500 going into tonight. In fact, we see a lot of players at this point of the season where they've talked about cutting back on their amount of pitches thrown the rest of the year. So you got to keep that in mind as we go on further. He did face the Astros 2 starts back and performed very well, allowing just 1 earned run, 6 innings of work. Well, he only got 1 strikeout, and that is a concern going into this one. We feel the Astros have the advantage here, as that start was just 10 days ago. And as you mentioned, the Astros are a very hot team, and they've got a solid 108 WRC plus on the season versus righty starters. Now, his mound opponent is Yusei Kikuchi, who has been just simply terrific since coming over from the Blue Jays. In 3 starts for the Astros, he's allowed just 5 earned runs and 16.2 innings of work. He's posted an amazing 24-6 strikeout to walk ratio. Boston hit him hard in his earlier meeting this year while pitching for Toronto, allowing 5 earned runs in only 4 innings. But he did have a nice 7-0 strikeout to walk ratio in that game. So you could take more out of that than just his bad performance that he had in that earlier game. So while we're looking to fade Houck, we're looking to back Kikuchi here. And as the Astros have made some minor adjustments since the trade, and as you mentioned coming in, the hottest team in baseball, the Houston Astros, who a lot of people had said they were too old, they were done. Now they are back in first place. I believe they're up by like 4 games already. So we're going to play Houston on the rise here, and we're going to fade this Red Sox squad, who the pitching, if you remember back earlier this season, the starting pitching was terrific for the Red Sox. Not so much anymore. So we're going to fade the Red Sox, take Houston here, as Houck and Kikuchi have a nice situation where we can bet on Kikuchi and fade Houck.
So I want to ask about Kikuchi's track record against the Red Sox, because obviously he's coming from Toronto, where he saw Boston on a fairly regular basis. And it wasn't just a 1 start this year against the Red Sox that was bad. Both starts last year against Boston, he got bombed. You look at the career numbers for the current Red Sox against Kikuchi. They're hitting well over 300 against him with an OPS of above 1. Does the career numbers worry you that Kikuchi's had a lot of problems against this particular lineup, or is the current form trump that pretty well?
I'm not a big believer in pitcher versus hitter matchups. Although you are correct, he has struggled in the past against them, but it's a different management and going to a different spot. So Houston is known for being very good at finding pitchers and turning them around, very much so, like Cleveland has done in the past. Toronto, not so much. In fact, Toronto's brought in some guys this year they thought were going to help, and they really haven't done that well either. So Toronto's not a place that I would recommend young pitchers to go to because they really haven't had a lot of success from a pitching standpoint. So yeah, it's a situation here where Houston has cut into some of the things he's done. In fact, overall, if you take a look at what Kikuchi had done, even in Toronto, his base numbers were a lot better than his outputs were. So he was one of those guys that had some positive regression coming his way, and it worked out very well for Houston.
Brian Leonard joining us, everyone. Exclusive handicapper at WagerTalk.com. And Brian, let's turn our attention to the Chicago White Sox San Francisco Giants game. Man, I had another shitty loss last night. I was on Oakland plus 1.5. They take it all the way into the 10th inning. And San Fran puts up 4-3 to go 4-1, and we had bases loaded, no out, and I couldn't get it in. I hope your pick does better than mine. How are you betting this game?
You know, with the White Sox, Jonathan Cannon is starting to come around into his own here in his rookie season with the Sox. On the year, he's just got a 4.02 ERA, a little bit high on the whip, a 1.30 whip. But if you take a look at his last 4 starts, he's allowed just 7 earned runs in 23.2 innings of work. And he accomplished that against some good hitting ball teams, ball clubs. The Rangers, the Royals, the Athletics that you just mentioned were a totally better offensive team than they were earlier in the season, and the New York Yankees, who we got to see last night on Sunday Night Baseball. He's not going to blow you away with a 16.2 strikeout percentage, but he is in the 67th percentile in walk rate. Chicago overall has permitted just 12 total runs in the last 3 games, playing at that red-hot Houston Astros. This is a team playing much better than they were earlier in this season. As a whole, the pitching staff has done much better as of late. Offensively, the White Sox still have a lot of holes, but this pitching staff is starting to come around, and people are starting to find out what their roles are, and I think we'll get more of that coming up tonight and through the rest of the season. And the Giants are a team that have only scored 25 total runs in their last 9 games. They're not hitting well, which was probably one of the reasons why you went against them yesterday, for good reason. Only once did they surpass tonight's team total of 4.5 runs, and they have a WRC plus of only 94 on the season versus righties. I think Cannon comes in here, shuts down that San Francisco offense that's struggling right now, and we get under that 4.5 runs for the Giants at a nice price here. That'll be my best bet on today's show.
So, I mean, the White Sox are, what are they, 3-23 since the All-Star break? Yeah, 3-23, 3-24 since the All-Star break, whatever it is. And they played better of late. Yeah, they've only lost 7 of their last 9. But the problems are so numerous, but they include a bullpen that continues to get lit up. Would you be more comfortable looking at this as a first 5 type of wager with a team total, or are you comfortable with the full game under, knowing how many times Chicago's bullpen has burned their backers this year?
Well, Chicago just played, I believe they played the Yankees and the Astros, 2 of the best teams in Major League Baseball, and they were able to win 2 of those games. So they're playing better ball right now. You could play that if you like. From a standpoint of the bullpen struggling. But I think it's the problem with Chicago has been nobody knows what their roles are. They've had like 2 or 3 guys all season long, going for the saves. They didn't have a guy in that position. Now I think they've got the 8th and 9th inning worked out. So if we can get 6 innings out of Cannon here, which, obviously is not a given, I think they're in pretty good shape. So you could play the under first half if you like. But I like the team total under for the full game here. 2 different ways to play it. I wouldn't be against the other one either.
You're muted, Lawrence.
I'm back. I was dealing with Oh my God, my kid. Okay, let's get over that. I have a quick
I mean,
question for
live
both
on
of you.
air.
Yeah, I know. Live on air. Why aren't we just betting against the White Sox every single game? Now, I understand it's minus 200, minus 250, minus 300, minus 800. This team is down an insane number. If you bet
So
against them on the money line all year, start to finish. Teddy?
Brian was just saying in his analysis and breakdown of the game that this is a starting pitcher who he thinks is in a good role and is worthy of a wager today, and that's why he's not betting against the White Sox.
I'm not talking about this specific game. I'm talking about in general. Is this one of those typical things where we're all just overthinking this and we should just be betting against this White Sox team on a regular basis, basically blind? Brian?
If you were to bet on bad teams after they've proven to the world that they're a bad team, you've already passed up the profitability. We saw that earlier this season with the Oakland A's. Everybody thought the A's were going to be terrible, and they started lousy, and now they're a much better team. You see that all the time. You have to be able to look and find reasons to bet on those teams because nobody wants them. So the line has to be put up higher. And San Francisco's a team. As much as I like San Francisco, they're not a team that should be laying this type of number.
Teddy,
and one of the things
something?
I learned fairly early on in my betting career, a piece of advice they would give me is like, you don't want to bet against a team after they've just had a after they've gone through as bad a run as any team's going to have all year. If you've been betting against the White Sox every game since the All-Star break, you're 23 or 24-3 right now. You made a fortune. If you want to jump in right now, after they've just gone 3-24 in their last 27 games, you're coming a little bit late to the party. And by a little bit late to the party, I mean a lot late to the party. That opportunity to bet against them blindly, at least in my opinion, has probably come and gone. I would expect the White Sox to play 300 to 400 level baseball the rest of the way. And if you're laying $2.50, $3 against them every day, that's not a profitable subset to fade.
If you're looking to bet on, if you're looking to bet on teams that you think are throwing in the towel, take a look at the teams like the Pirates, the Reds, teams that don't have a lot of talent that started off playing pretty well, and now they're starting to fade. And we saw it with Pittsburgh losing 10 games in a row. I've been on the Reds, unfortunately, 2 out of the last 3 days, and that's been some losers for me. They're a team that just don't have the overall talent to be able to make it. They were playing over their heads early. That's the kind of thing you want to look at right now when you're betting on teams on a daily basis. And I know Teddy's been able to do this over the years, getting on a team to fade or to bet on. And it's worked out very well for him. So I think he'd probably agree on that.
Brian Leonard, what do you have to promote?
We've been red hot in Major League Baseball once again. And now with football going on, the lines maker doesn't care nearly as much about baseball. And it's really paying off. We're 10-5 lately on our plus money underdogs. That means plus 101 and higher. Yesterday we had Colorado plus 168. The day before we had the Tigers plus 202. When you're giving out those type of numbers and you're 10-5, that's something you want to have. We've got 2 plays up right now on the site, both underdogs, and you want to grab those right now. I got those up there for a special price for you today. And the last 3-4 days we've been in the top 3 in baseball, top 2 or 3 in baseball. So we're heating up right now, just as we normally would expect, with everybody worried about football.
Brian Leonard, thanks for joining us, brother. We'll see you next Monday. Teddy covers. Somebody asked last Monday what the 6 Bs mean. Tell us and let's go, baby.
6 Bs stand for bad beats, 1, 2, bad bets, 3, 4, and bad for the books, 5, 6. It's just a little recap of what just happened this past weekend. I focused during football season on this. I could do it all year round, but the bad beats in football tend to be a little bit more fun to talk about. There were a couple of tough beats this past weekend. Let's see. The Patriots -3/3.5 against Philly. That wasn't fun if you had New England. Not only New England was a right side winner. The offense didn't move the football, but then again, Philly hadn't sniffed the end zone until the latter stage of the fourth quarter. And of course, multiple cappers at WagerTalk, myself included, had the Pats on the money line, not minus the points. Philly with the 2-point conversion after their only touchdown of the game late in the fourth. Of course, that 2-pointer was good. Philly gets the win, the cover, and the Patriots backers not amused. Ravens-Falcons, another 2-point conversion. This one Atlanta missed. The Falcons hadn't sniffed the end zone all day until the touchdown with 36 seconds left. That another 1-point decision. Tough if you had, that one bounced back and forth. I'll talk about that when it comes to bad for the books as well. But nonetheless, the 2-point conversion missed by Atlanta. Tough beat if you laid points with Baltimore. But that one, again, bounced back and forth across the number. When it comes to bad bets, this one really stands out. There was over money. We talked about it last week. Over money in every single week 2 preseason game. At the closing numbers, week 2 of the preseason went 14-2 to the under. Dallas and Vegas cashed overs for people who bet it early. But the only 2 games that went over the total at the close, Detroit, Kansas City, Minnesota, Cleveland. Whoever it was that was betting the over in every game off the openers last week, they did not do particularly well with those wagers. Again, 13-3 at the open, 14-2 to the under at the close. Bad bets. There was plenty of them. Giants money poured in against Houston before kickoff. Giants starters are playing. Daniel Jones got a half. Doesn't matter. The Texans are a legit preseason juggernaut. 28-10 final. Tim Boyle with a pair of fourth-quarter touchdown drives to seal it. And, of course, the Giants with not 1, not 2, but 3 fourth-quarter fumbles. Those aren't fun for G-men backers. The Chiefs. Andy Reid has done this each of the last 2 years. Said, we're going to play our starters for the full half, and then he pulled them. Chiefs, we're going to play starters for the full half. And then Patrick Mahomes was pulled after 2 field goal drives. KC bet all the way up to -9 against Detroit. Detroit resting starters. Well, Nate Sudfeld, Hendon Hooker threw for 342 yards. And the Lions won the game straight up at +9, 24-23. Carolina looked awful in their preseason debut against the Pats. But here's a rookie coach, home opener against the Jets that don't care. Well, they scored their only touchdown of the game on the final play with zeros on the clock and still lost 15-13 against the Jets. The Jets played Adrian Martinez and Andrew Peasley at quarterback for the full 60 minutes. That is not a bet-on duo. They still got the money against the Panthers. The Bills-Steelers total got steamed up, one of many, 33.5 up to 38. Russell Wilson's going to play. Well, there were no touchdowns in the game, 9-3 final. Pitt had 10 drives with Wilson or Fields at quarterback. Those 10 drives combined to produce 1 field goal. The Raiders have a quarterback competition. Money for Vegas, -3.5 to -7. They got blown out by the Cowboys. Steam for the Chargers on Saturday night. You have to fade McVay and the Rams, right? Chargers +1, -3.5. Well, the Rams had 1 touchdown drive all day. That was a big play from Stetson Bennett to J.J. Lapp in the fourth quarter, 13-9 final. Both teams no-showed, but all of a sudden the Rams 2-0 in the preseason, despite being heavy money against them in both those contests. When it comes for bad for the books, the Ravens-Falcons, talked about this one, Atlanta in the middle. Atlanta but -2, Baltimore -2. The Falcons get the last-minute touchdown. The failed 2-point conversion lands right in the middle. And Ravens money line bets cash. They weren't betting Atlanta money line. Lots of Ravens money line because of the track record for Harbaugh in those games. That was not a good result for the house, landing in the middle with Baltimore money line. Seattle, Tennessee, same story. Bounce between Tennessee -2 and Seattle -2. Titans win 16-15. Both teams take the lead on long field goals in the final 2 minutes. Titans with a kick to win it. Zeros on the clock. Landing in the middle, not good for the house. Bears -3 up to -7 against the Bengals. True no-show for Cincy. 27-3 Chicago. Bettors got that one right. Dolphins -1.5 to -6/6.5 against Commanders. There was a little buyback late on Washington. But prevented from being worse. Got bet down to +5, -5 on game day. Miami did nothing. They only got the 13 points, only had 12 first downs, but that was enough. They had a goal line stand at the end, and Washington only 2 field goals. 13-6 final. Dolphins get the money. One more bad for the books. Sunday night, one-way action. Broncos -3.5 up to -6.5 against the Packers. 27-2 final. The combo of Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, and Zach Wilson. Well, Zach Wilson was pretty awful. Only 2 completions, but he still had a touchdown drive. Nonetheless, that trio of QBs made their backers money against a Green Bay team that was a complete no-show. 27-2 final. Lots of Denver money, and Denver got the money. That, too, a bad game for the books. There you have it. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. We'll do it again next week. Lawrence, back to you, my friend.
Teddy covers. Outstanding. I love that segment. I would like to make it a little shorter. We even have someone who just wrote, and I thought we had a hard out on Mondays. My goodness. Justin P., thanks for joining us. Theo Green, Save the Clock, Javier. Love all you guys in the chat room. If you like what you're hearing, please take a minute and hit that like button. And Waj, perverted man this morning. I appreciate it and agree. Teddy, let's bring Bryan Power in. Bryan, how was your weekend, my friend?
Good. It was my birthday on Saturday, Prez, so it was even better than
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, boy.
I
I'm sorry,
could care less.
all right. I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, bring it up, dude. But honestly, I could care less about your birthday. I could care less about Teddy's. And frankly, I could care less about mine. I'm not a birthday guy. I'm not any day guy. I like blah, blah, blah. Is this a big thing for you?
No, just you asked a question, I gave an answer. And I thought it was an honest answer, how it was. That's how conversation works. A man asks a question, a man gives a response, and we go from there.
Okay, well, I hope you had a wonderful birthday. Your children didn't bother you. Your friends gave you love, and your wife gave you action.
Yeah, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as they say. So there we go.
You are a married man, dude, so I can understand that.
Yes.
Let's get into some La Liga. It goes today. Atletico Madrid, plus 100. Is this the team we're betting, or are we taking Villarreal?
We are betting Atletico today. This is a 4% client play for me. Full candor, it was a disappointing start to the soccer season for yours truly, but still a 33-17-3 soccer run. Number 1 last season net units, EPL, Serie A, La Liga. Now let's talk about La Liga. This will be my first bet in the Spanish top flight this season. It's a top-heavy league. Real Madrid, they shockingly drew with Mallorca yesterday. I know that, but they're still rightfully the overwhelming favorites to win in Spain. Behind them, there are 2 options, I think, to easily finish top 4, that being Barcelona and who I'm getting into right now, Atletico Madrid. Atletico finished 4th last year, which is actually a little low for them. I've got them as the second best team coming into this season. Starting 11's a lot stronger, guys, particularly with the addition of Julian Alvarez comes over from Man City. They also got Alexander Sorloth, who was the leading goal scorer last year for who? Villarreal, and that's obviously a big deal when last year's leading goal scorer is playing for your opponent. Even if you don't follow soccer, you can follow that concept. Sorloth was second in the league last year with 23 goals. Villarreal, they also lost their top goalkeeper from last year, so they're a lot weaker. They were 8th in the league last year. That may not seem to be a big difference from Atletico's 4th place finish, but the gap was 23 points, so it actually was a pretty big difference, and I only think it grows wider this season. Atletico swept the 2 fixtures last year. They won 2-1 and 3-1. I expect multiple goals again this afternoon. That should be enough to get all 3 points. I got this at plus 111. Money's come in. We've been beating the line moves all weekend. Now we hope we get the W, but I like Atletico to claim all 3 points in their La Liga opener.
Atletico Madrid worthy of a wager in La Liga action today. Let's shift our focus to the other football. That would be the NFL. And you want to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers line, 7.5 wins. Tampa, the last 4 seasons, 11, 13, 8, and 9. They've gone over every year. Last year was supposed to be a collapse, and they went over again. Talk to me about the Bucs in 2024. More of the same, or are we expecting a regression?
Well, when I was on the show last week and gave out Carolina over 5.5 wins, that went over so well with Prez and so many in the chat room. I thought I would decide to remind everybody that I gave that out by talking about another NFC South team. And I like under on Tampa Bay, Teddy. It's somewhat correlated, you could say, with the Carolina over bet. But you mentioned at this time last year, everyone was selling the Bucs. I came on the show around this time, and I said I was going to be back in Tampa in week 1 against Minnesota. Some of that, you want to go back and dig up the analysis, it was a desire to fade the Vikings, who'd been frauds the year before. But I thought the market was way too low, and I know it's easy to say now, but you can listen to what I had to say last year, and it'll match up. The market was too low on Tampa last year, Teddy. they'd won the division year before. You mentioned the win totals. Everyone was so obsessed about the loss of Tom Brady, but they were not losing the Brady of 2007. They lost to Tom Brady that in 2022 was a statue. He was afraid to get hit. So 6.5 was clearly too low of a total last year. Oh, by the way, they won outright in that week 1 game over the Vikings. Shockingly won the division again. I did not expect that, but I did even bet the Bucs in their wild card upset of Philadelphia. I think I broke that down on the show as well. That was their only win over a playoff team, though, all season. And here's the thing. They overachieved, obviously, specifically Baker Mayfield, who I think turns back into a pumpkin this year, guys. I mentioned last week he lost his OC, Dave Canales, who's now the head coach at Carolina. And Teddy, just conceptually, when I see a team that overachieved 1 year and they're kind of just running it back with the same roster, that is when I see regression on the horizon. You look at this Baker Mayfield-led offense last year. Not a lot of early down success. They were good on third down, but that's generally less predictive year to year than early down success rate, a metric the Bucs were 25th in last year. They had the worst rushing offense in the league, oh, by the way, as well. Games where the opponent scored 20 or more points, the Bucs were 1-6 straight up, so not built to win shootouts. Things like field goal luck, fumble luck worked in their favor last year. I would not be surprised if this team drops from first to worst in the division. They have the toughest schedule in the NFC South, so Tampa Bay under 7.5. Love the plus money price on this one. This is my favorite under on the board for NFL season win totals.
So when we talk about Tampa and what happened last year, all right, you're saying, yeah, this is the team that overachieved last year, and they're just basically running it back. But they're running it back with a win total of 7.5, not with a win total of 9.5. You know, they could be a losing team and still cash over bets this year. How confident are you, even with regression, that the betting markets haven't over-adjusted this number down? Because it feels to me like, once again, this year, just like last year, there's not much respect for this team in the offseason betting markets.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the discussion we had last week, because I think that was your same follow-up. And I would feel more confident with the change with this team than Carolina. Obviously, the Carolina, we all, you can yell and say you don't like over 5.5 wins, but I think we all think they're going to win more games than they did last year. But that's baked into that number, obviously, at 5.5. Here, a drop from 9 to 7.5, when I think there's so many metrics pointing towards regression, Teddy, that doesn't scare me, quite frankly. It's a difference of 2 wins. Last year, okay, you could say, well, they had a first-place schedule last year, too. But look at who some of the division winners were last year. The Eagles, who fell off. The Vikings, who were frauds, and they beat in week 1. This year, it's a strong group, generally speaking, of NFC division winners from last year. Dallas, Detroit, San Fran, obviously. And I think this division also, which was not good last year, Atlanta was an underachiever. Carolina obviously stunk. New Orleans couldn't get out of its own way. I would say all 3 of those. New Orleans, I don't know. Carolina's going to win more games this year. Atlanta's going to win more games this year. I just think when you look at the confluence of factors, this team winning 2 fewer games than last year, no, I'm not afraid of that, quite frankly.
Bryan Power, I was against your Carolina play last week. I love this play. I think Tampa Bay is going to end up being one of the worst teams in football. I agree with you on Baker. And it's not even Baker. I don't see many weapons around him. Mike Evans is, 93 years old now? I don't see a massive improvement in their defense. This team is going to be a disaster. And in week 1, they're -4 against Washington. I'm looking at Washington, and I think Washington could make the upset here. There's no reason this Washington team can't go in and beat this Tampa Bay team in Tampa Bay straight up. Great pick, Bri. What do you have to promote?
I tell you what, I love when we agree, Prez. We started a little shaky here on the show today, but we ended like friends. What do I have to promote today? Talk about win totals. I do have a 5% college football win total up for sale right now at my page. I've been giving out win totals, both NFL and college, all summer long here on WagerTalk TV, not just this show, but the Power 5, the Morning Wager, along with Mark Zinno. This is by far my favorite, obviously. That's why I made it a 5% max bet. We're 70% with 5% college football plays going back to December of 2022. For today, I already gave you one of my plays. It was in soccer. I have a baseball play. You asked how my weekend was, Prez. I did win my only baseball play over the weekend. It was on the Texas Rangers in a miracle late inning comeback yesterday. This one, I don't think we're going to have to sweat out as well. 71% with plays rated 4% or higher on the diamond in August. So I love this one. Again, a 4% best bet.
Awesome stuff, Bryan Power, everyone. 14 minutes left in the show. We got a hard stop on Mondays. Why? Because Teddy and Drew have the opening line report at 1 p.m., and it is one of the best shows you will hear. It's spectacular. We'll talk to Drew and Teddy about that in a sec. Theodore, it's time for your big game breakdown.
Big game breakdown. Let's talk some MLB for Monday night. The Dodgers and the Mariners in LA. Right now, look at the WagerTalk free live odds screen. I'm seeing the Dodgers anywhere minus 130, minus 135. Split total in this game. They're 8s, juice to the over. They're 8.5, juice to the under. And I'm going to make a case for the underdog in this ballgame, Seattle. Dodgers have injury problems right now, real injury problems. All right, yes, they had a winning road trip. They closed it out with a 2-1 victory yesterday against St. Louis. But, again, they scored 2 runs in that ballgame. They scored 2 runs on Saturday. They scored 4 runs or less, 4 of the last 5. And, oh, by the way, Freddie Freeman just smashed up his finger. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to go today either, leaving a struggling lineup without one of their key bats. The Tyler Glasnow injury really messed up LA's bullpen. They've been dealing with bullpen games on a regular basis since, for most of the season. Then they lost another starter. And what happened this past week was basically using every pitcher they can use. So there's a staff that's dealing with injuries everywhere, starters and bullpens. They used all the key bullpen arms yesterday, closing out that 2-1 victory. And Gavin Stone's not eating innings. 7 starts since the beginning of July. He has 0 outs recorded after the 5th in 6 of those 7 starts. The Dodgers only 2-5 in those ball games. And again, the bullpen behind him, he's not going to eat innings, and that bullpen behind him is fried. LA is playing now for the 11th straight day, banged up starting staff, multiple bullpen games. Lineup's not hitting. This is not a team that should be chalking this ball game. Brian Woo's eating innings, man. 7, 7, and 6 2/3 in 3 August starts. 92 pitches or less each time. The Mariners 4-1 in his last 5. Seattle's bats got on track yesterday, scored 10 runs in Pittsburgh. 4-game winning streak, then a 5-game skid, then one yesterday. I think we ride him again today. Give me Seattle at the plus price in LA with Woo on the hill. And look for the Mariners to emerge victorious. Dodgers, false favorites in this one. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
I'm still mad at Seattle, Teddy. My last show last week was on Wednesday. I had my first 5% play of the year in baseball. It was on Seattle and Bryan Woo. The handicap was perfect. I said Bryan would go 7 innings and not give up a run. That is exactly what happened. And yet we lost that game in the extra innings. It's just been one of those baseball seasons for me, man. Every game I'm picking right, and things are just going wrong. But as I have said to head office, it's a good time for a slump, given that it's summertime, and now we're approaching some NFL and college football. So move on. Drew Martin joining us. Drew, you ready for Teddy? You ready for the 1 p.m. spot?
Oh, yeah, man. We're teeing it up here shortly, but always good to be on with you as well, Prez. And like always, a new Monday to my friend TC. So hopefully you boys are doing good. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So for the people who've never heard the opening line report, Teddy, what are they going to hear? Why should they tune in?
So we do it every Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And Drew and I go through each and every game on the board for the next week. We talk about where the line opened, where it could move, what my power earnings number. I'll give pertinent quotes, stuff that I saw from games this past weekend. And we go through all 32 teams, all 16 games every week. It's quick hitters. It's fast-paced, but it is detailed with a ton of info. And certainly once the regular season starts, we do a lot of, do we want to bet this now? Do we want to wait till later in the week? We talk about where the money is coming. In the preseason, we can't do that. So in the preseason, I focus more on which team / coach is showing signs they're going to show up this next week and which ones aren't. So I try to read the tea leaves in that regard. And of course, we've gotten a great feedback on that show, great viewership on that show, great comments and on YouTube on that show, and a whole lot of views. So if you haven't seen it, check it out today or any Monday. And of course, it's archived 24/7 on the YouTube page at WagerTalk. WagerTalk's YouTube page, which has 160 something thousand subscribers.
165.
Did we get there?
160. Yeah, go ahead, Teddy.
I was asking if we got to 165. You were trying us to get to 165 last week.
We got to 165. Now that handsome Drew Martin is on, we should go to 170 within minutes. And you're right about the opening line report. And man, during the regular season, that's probably one of, if not the most important shows to watch. So I can't wait for the regular season and to watch the two of you do your thing. And Drew, I think I have the same hat as you. I don't know where it is, but I'm pretty sure I have the same hat as you. Okay, let's get into it. We got Pittsburgh. The Pirates, 2-8 in their last 10, playing Texas, 3-7 in their last 10. We had Bryan Leonard talk about betting against the Pirates conceptually, a team that has given up. How are you attacking this game?
Well, I guess we could attack it by, conceptually looking to bet against the Texas Rangers, a team that has given up on the season. So we'll go head to head here with my good friend Bryan Leonard, who, by the way, I respect his opinion on the diamond. But hey, that's what makes a market here, guys. So we report, you decide. I actually like this guy Ortiz on the hill for the Pirates. I know of recent he hasn't been as good, but he was a bullpen arm that turned starter, the 25-year-old Dominican. He actually faced a tough schedule. When you look at the lineups he faced the last few times out, he went back-to-back against the Padres, which is never really a good situation for a starting pitcher. Seeing him that second time around, plus the Padres smash righties. And he was also back-to-back against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So it's like 2 straight times around, he went against the same lineup twice. So I actually think he's going to have a better start here. And he's up against the Texas Rangers lineup that hasn't been doing much offensively. Plus the fact, kind of conceptually speaking, going against the Texas Rangers here, there's rumors coming down the stretch, the defending World Series champions in this season has just not been there. They're likely not making the playoffs, and they got a lot of money due to some of their big name players. And they're talking about just dropping them and, paying the little tax that you have to pay just so they can save money for next season. I wouldn't blame them. Business is business. But at the same time, it comes down to betting these teams down the stretch. And sure enough, the Rangers are 6-16 their last 22, 3-9 their last 12. You touched on some of that, Prez. Overall, I think this Rangers team is really a fade. Plus the fact you look at their bullpen, they got a bunch of guys that were in like double and triple A, kind of trying to eat innings, and they just named their starter, Dane Dunning. He does not go very deep into games. So we're likely going to get a lot of these relief arms. I mean, the Pittsburgh Pirates aren't great shakes. You can make reasons against them, but catching near plus 130 right now, this is a sizable dog I think has a shot, and it's really fade city on Texas. I don't think they should be laying this big of a price. So we're jumping on the Pirates here at the plus price, Prez.
So I'm with you very conceptually when it comes to if I'm looking for a team to fade in the second half, it's going to be a team that had high expectations that is crashing and burning, like Texas, who went to the World Series a year ago, as opposed to a team like Pittsburgh, who was hoping to stay competitive. They had a slump here in August, and they clearly have righted the ship. They won 2 of their last 3, even though they lost yesterday. So conceptually, I'm with you in looking to fade a team like Texas. But I'm just looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen. They're taking money right now. Any idea why the money's pouring in on the Rangers? Do the markets like Dunning or something? This was all minus 125, and now I'm seeing as high as minus 153 out there for the Rangers. Lots of money showing for Texas, and I don't know why. Do you?
Absolutely, Teddy. Yeah, I got at least my thinking on why is because actually I was looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen this morning, and there was numbers out, and I would go into the sports book, and they weren't actually accepting bets on that game. Like, the game wasn't posted. So I don't know if it was up and then they took it down, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get down on the Pittsburgh Pirates at plus 105 this morning personally. But as the day went on and then they named Dunning as the starter, then it reopened at the sports books I'm looking at, Teddy. And now we can get them, plus 130. So it actually worked better in terms of getting a better number for me. But the reason being, they were undecided with their starting pitcher all in the overnight market. And, you can look up at some of these sites like projected starters. And it was actually Jose Urena as the projected starter for the Rangers. And he was awful. I mean, he lost his last 3 times, 15 earned runs in the last 12 innings. So that's actually how I handicapped the game in the overnights. But now it looks like Dane Dunning coming in and it reopening at the new number. So that's, I believe, the reason why. I don't think it's like a whole lot of, necessarily money coming in, but the reopening with Dunning being the difference. I don't know if you're picking up what I'm laying down, though.
Who doesn't, Drew? I mean, come on, brother. Guys, 165, 70 of you in the chat room, only 46 likes. Let's refresh. 62 likes. Thank you for that. Let's get to 100 on a regular basis, please. For all you regulars in the chat room, bug the newbies to hit that like button. Drew, is this a good time to be looking on betting the New York Mets? This is a team that has really had a good run and have found themselves back in the playoff chase. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot, but they struggled their last 9 games. Now they are coming off of 2 wins and a loss to Miami. They're playing the red hot leading AL East leading Baltimore Orioles. Where are we going in this game? Baltimore's not red hot, so I don't need Teddy to correct me.
Sure, Prez. And yeah, you're right. Last week was not a good week for the Mets, but winning 2 of 3 against the Marlins, maybe they're heading in the right direction here. I think this is more about the starting pitching matchup, actually. Trevor Rogers going for the O's. He hasn't been the pitcher that they likely the reason they traded for him. I mean, you look at his record, 2-11 on the season. He's got a 5 ERA. 2 of the 3 starts he started here with the O's he's been rocked around. And now he's going up against the Mets lineup that's really smashed southpaws. I think they're going to be putting up some crooked numbers here. And Peterson going for the Mets, the first rounder out of Oregon, the former Duck. I mean, he's been solid. 3 flat ERA, back to back, really good starts. They won the last 2 times he was out. So I'm actually looking to bet on the Mets now, kind of like a little bit of a buy low spot. This is one where, the number kind of jumps out at you, Prez. What are the Orioles doing catching a plus price here against the Mets? Well, I think this is one where the market is telling us something. So getting the Mets here, what it was minus $1.25, now as high as minus 130. I actually like the Mets here. Starting off the night slate, I'm betting the Mets over the Orioles.
Look for Peterson to get the job done for the New York Metropolitans in MLB betting action for Monday night, says Drew Martin. Drew, what do you have to promote over at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, Teddy, on the diamond, it's been good. Up almost 30% profit since the start of July, all MLB sides. So we got 2 more, actually 3 more, guys. Going to go in with another one here. So you get a little 3-for-1 action on tonight's slate. 4% best bet going on Mondays. Been a nice Monday run, 5-1. The last 6, 4% on Mondays. And then again, overall, that 30% profit. So we got 3-for-1 tonight, 4% included. Drew Martin, WagerTalk.com. All going tonight on the diamond.
What a show. Drew Martin, thanks for joining us. Teddy, kick ass on your opening line report. Thank you to Brian Leonard, Bryan Power, and of course, Drew Martin. Tomorrow's show, Mark Zeno, Adam Trigger, and Steve Merrill. Teddy covers. Take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Monday edition. Like Lauren said, we'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Stay tuned on this network for Drew and I doing the NFL opening line report in just about 15 minutes from now. And of course, between now and tomorrow's Wager Talk Today show, enjoy the games and best of luck with all your bets.